This week on Rockstar Superhero. Striker is the sound of classic metal refined to a new brilliance with first-class musicianship and songwriting. The band stands square in the gap, reminding us through their music that the past shouldn't just be remembered fondly, but reworked and spun into gold. Dan Cleary, the founder and vocalist of the band, has remained true to his roots, holding us captive to his direction and intent. It's a marvelous thing when you realize how much the band is stuck to its original vision, while their contemporaries attempt to shift to the latest trends. Striker is truly a modern musical wonder. The latest single, Deathwish, hits all the right notes and gives this interviewer the biggest smile in the world. As I say often, the music takes me back to a time when the world was in front of me, and I spent my off hours dreaming of playing music on the biggest stages. This is what Striker does. They capture us. Please enjoy my interview with Dan Cleary of the phenomenal Juno award-winning Striker on Rockstar Superhero.
You can't change your spots, and you know I can't change mine. Where do we go now? Whoa.
Mr. Cleary, man. Dan, I'm telling you, I am so stoked to have you here, man. It's a huge honor, and you know, and all my listeners, they always joke that I say the same thing every time, but it's not false, right? I only have people on the show I genuinely want to have, or people I've befriended over the years. But that being said, man, I mean, Striker completely freaks me out, blows me out of the water. And yeah, man. I mean, look, I know you probably have heard it all, especially after the last couple of years, but you know, it's not often I get to host award-winning bands on the show. So, you know, thanks for making the time.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Something I like to do every time, so I'm going to go down the same road, is I love to find out what forms musicians. You know, I mean, Striker's been your baby for, you know, from the beginning, right? And I'm curious, if you don't mind, give me a brief breakdown of how music came to be, you know, such a significant part of your life. Why is it so important to you?
I don't know. That's kind of a tough question. It's sort of like, why does anyone do what they do?
Yeah,
I guess, I don't know. But I don't know. Music's always been a big part of my life. I think just even growing up, my parents, this is a pretty standard story too. You know, my parents were into music, and they weren't musicians themselves, but they were interested in it. So they played a lot of music around the house and stuff. It was like Rolling Stones and Dire Straits and that kind of thing. So
nice.
Lots of like guitar music. And I think that's where my first like real love of music was, like through playing guitar, I think. So
yeah. I love that you brought up Dire Straits. It shows right where your generation lies, right? I mean, if that was an early influence for you, as it was for me, you know, we probably share a lot of the same heroes. But I'm curious, did your parents, you know, your mother or your father, they're playing all this music at home, did you ever play games around the music? Meaning, like, did you know, sit down and draw to it, or did you do family things with music going on in the background?
Yeah, I think like, I mean, usually like making dinner or whatever, that was always a big thing. It's like you got the music on in the background and stuff like that. As far as games, I don't really remember, to be honest. But
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, like it definitely, like I remember for sure, like Sundays, especially, like, you know, if the folks were doing stuff around the house, they would always put on some music, and we would just soak it in, us kids running around being brats. And
yeah. Did you grow up in a big family?
Just one brother. I have an older brother.
Gotcha. Well, look, dude, I mean, I won't kill you with the weird personal questions, but you know, like I said, I like to know. Back in 2020, when things were going haywire around the world, right? The world was in a very weird place with the whole COVID scare. And obviously we're still kind of in it. It seems like we're nearing endemic status, and getting out of the pandemic. And maybe we might come into some normalcy this year, which would be incredible.
Yeah.
But, in the middle of all that, Play to Win, kind of takes home the big prize, right? You guys get the Juno. And for those of you who are my American audience who doesn't know what a Juno is, it's the Grammy, of Canada. And I love that, again, as I said in the top of the hour here, I love that your band received this prize, because what your music represents to me is something classic, tried and true, but you found your own voice in it. And I'm wondering, did it feel as surreal as I imagined? Did it feel deserved?
Yeah, I mean, like, we've worked really hard and we've been a band for a long time. That being said, there's always that little bit of like, anytime you get unless you're like a real egomaniac, I think anytime you get recognition for anything, you're kind of just like, oh yeah, that's great. But it's like, I could have tried harder, or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so it's definitely like when we got it, it was like right in the middle of COVID, obviously. So we were like, we just had to like watch the announcement from home, which was,
oh, okay. I didn't know that.
What wasn't nearly as cool as like we had been nominated previously, and we got to actually go to the award show and everything like that, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, this time it was just, it was like we watched it on YouTube or whatever.
That's I mean, it's great to be, it's amazing to be nominated. It's obviously killer to win, but yeah, it does have to be kind of a buzzkill to be like, okay, guys, you're waving from your bedroom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. They got us to like send in like a acceptance thing or something. And like, I think they like posted it on Twitter or whatever. And it was like, so it was a little underwhelming, but I mean, they did the best they could with trying to figure out the COVID stuff. Like, because it was like maybe 4 or 5 months after they were normally supposed to be given away. So it was like, usually it's in March, and then they didn't give it away till like the end of June.
Oh.
And so they had a lot of time to try and figure it out. But I'm sure at the same time, you're like, everybody was in the same boat of being like, oh, like maybe by then it'll be like past and we'll be able to do it or whatever. So it took them a while to like actually figure out how to do it. And I mean, it was okay. Like, what are you going to do, right?
Well, yeah, what are you going to do? But I mean, it's still incredible. I mean, you can turn around and say, hey, let's see that thing. You know what I mean? I mean, you get to say that. You get to say you experienced that. And for so many musicians, I'm a former drummer myself, is you tend to, you're seeking, right? This is what you're doing for your life. And you're looking for the moment, right? The moment where you're sort of made whole spiritually, right? You can look at it and say like, that was the moment I knew I had achieved something. But I've talked to a number of musicians who have said, when I hit that moment, when I'm standing on the big stage or I'm playing the big show, that I absolutely struggled with imposter syndrome at that moment. Did that happen to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've had plenty of that. Like, I think that's just like anybody, with any kind of thing like that, it feels like surreal. And I think it's always tough when you're really in it. You don't really see how other people are seeing your success from the outside, where it can seem like, oh wow, that's crazy. But for you, it's been a little step at a time along the way. And then it's like, oh, this is just a little step above that. And so,
yeah. No, I get that, man. Something because of what happened over the last 48 hours. I'd actually like to talk about this. I promise I'm not going to make you too uncomfortable. But I do want to touch on, the band as it shifts and changes, and something I've noticed over the years, and again, I experienced this myself, is that being in a band is pretty much exactly like being married. You know, you know what I mean? You're in a constant state of compromise. And a lot of times you don't get to compromise because somebody in the band wants to undo what you've done, or they have an opinion that they feel is more valid than yours. And the stakes are so high, you know what I mean? And I think because we're artists and we're creatives, those things have to be put out there. And again, when you're having to deal with 4 or 5 other personalities, this causes sort of seismic shifts within the band a lot. And you know, yesterday I saw online that, you know, John's back in the band, which blew me away. And I'm obviously, I mean, as a fan, I don't know how I feel about it, but don't get me wrong. I think he's awesome. I'm glad he's back because clearly he wants to be back and you guys want him back. But I'm also bummed out, you know, that we have to see other members, you know what I mean? We have to see people go for others to come in. And I don't know. I just would love your takeaway of what does it feel like to be in a band that sort of has a little bit of tumult? You know what I mean? A lot of shifts, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like being in a band can be like such a big sacrifice. I mean, I honestly think that like to like get to the level you want to be at, it's all about like how much you and the band are willing to sacrifice from the rest of your life to achieve that. And that's where the tricky balance comes in. So yeah, Chris, he's moving on, but I mean, it's like for all good reasons. He's got a great job, and you know, he just thought, it's maybe his time to stop. And like, to be fair, COVID's been hard on the band because like a lot of what it is it's not so much that we're not playing, it's that we're constantly rebooking stuff. And we're waiting and we're not doing other things like in our personal lives. Like you're not going on a vacation with your wife or whatever. You're waiting because you're like, oh, okay, I have vacation days at work and I want to like be able to make that work with tour. So it's like, you know, you don't want to blow all your days on a vacation and then have to explain to your job that you're like, I need to be gone for another 5 weeks or whatever.
Right.
So it's like 2 years of pushing back, like all that stuff in your life can be like a drag. So, and I can definitely understand why that was, you know, a part of Chris's decision to leave. And we're excited to have John back. He was in the band with us for a couple really big tours. We toured in Europe with him a couple times. So he's a really good friend, and he's in a position in his life now where he's really excited about playing. So it's a nice fit. It's bittersweet, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, I watched both. Well, I should say I saw the photo, you know, and then I saw Chris's goodbye, and which is a hilarious video. If you haven't seen it, you guys do need to go look it up. It is utterly hilarious. Fantastic stuff. You know, to me, the band thing is such a wild challenge, you know, because you mentioned sacrifice, and most people don't understand. You know, you guys have been around a long time, and I mean, what, 15 years now? Am I pretty close?
It's getting close to that. 2007 was when we actually formed.
15 years, dude.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's crazy.
Yeah. So what happens is you've been around a long time. You know, clearly your public has an awareness of you. You win the Juno. You've got a lot of material out there. You know, you just released Deathwish. A lot of things are happening, and the outsider, the consumer, you know, the fan looks at all of this and says, well, why would you leave for a job? Aren't you rich? Right. Or right. Aren't you? Because you're a celebrity to me. You know what I mean? I quote this all the time, but Eddie Vedder said to me once back in 95, he said, you know, the only difference between me and you, man, is I do what I do on television. And the audience somehow believes that makes him, you know, in a sense, more special. Right. You know, what does it feel like to be on the inside of that, knowing that that's a bunch of crap?
It's fine. I mean, like, I don't think we ever set out to be like, fame was never a thing that we were trying to do. I think
Yeah.
our biggest goals were like, we want to write the best music we can, or at least the music that we like, and we want to play it to as many people as we can. And that's always been kind of the main thing. And we want to, we want to make, like, release cool stuff as best we can. And that's the main thing. I mean, I don't know how many people start a traditional metal band to get famous.
Not many, but you know what? So I'm 55, so I'm significantly older than you, but what you do, and I mean, I do want to touch on it here, is you do something extraordinary, actually. You might not think it is, but you guys have figured out a way to hone and distill and refine that classic sound, whatever you want to call it, however somebody wants to define it. You guys have found a sweet spot. And, I was listening to Deathwish again yesterday. I mean, I get it. It's a recent release. And so, maybe the world doesn't know about it. Maybe only your diehards do so far. But what I love about you guys, and what I love about that song, maybe above anyone else in your particular genre or subgenre, is that you guys are relentlessly old school. You know what I mean? And I mean, relentlessly, like, I can exaggerate. You guys are so old school. And I mean that in the best way, right? And for me, and this isn't just to reference Canada, but there seem to be musical influences, I mean, that I hear as a 55-year-old guy. I hear bits and pieces of Triumph and Loverboy, right? And at the same time, I hear modern influences like Avenged Sevenfold. And I'm not saying you're influenced by any of those bands, but you know what I mean? That's how cool it is, that it's like there can be so much out there, and yet you sound like Stryker. And so I adore it, and I give you my praise.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, like, we definitely have we've never shied away from, like, having influences that are, like, all across the board. And then I think that's always been kind of our style, is to, like, put all of those things together into our own thing, which is always pretty heavily, like, old school metal influenced, because that's just what we've always listened to the most of. But as we get older, we're definitely broadening our musical horizons, but no matter how hard we try and write something that's outside of what we do, it always sounds like us. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously you're not going to go off the deep end and turn into a death and gore band, right? But
yeah.
You know what I mean? You do hear those disparate, new modern things, but most of it really is the sonics, right? You've taken the classic old school sort of vibe and style. It's not even the sound, because you really do have a modern sound. But it's funny. I was watching that video, and as I was saying, and I mean, you guys are even smoking, which I was like, that is such a thumb your nose at the way things are nowadays, right? And I don't know, man. The music is like soundtrack music to the best years of my life, and it gives me absolute joy. So all of this said, here's my weird lead into my favorite question. What is your favorite review of your music? It doesn't have to be current. It could have been something from the past. But, what's your favorite review, and why did that particular review stick with you? It could be positive or negative.
Jeez. I have to try and remember some of the reviews.
if you even read them, man.
Well, we do. Yeah. We read most of them. I don't know if I could put my finger on one. It's been a while, because, like, we haven't had any more recent reviews, because, like, you got to put an album out, right? Like, and it's been since 2018 or whatever since we actually put an album out. So, I don't know. It's a tough one. But
that's fair.
Honestly, what's one of the nicest things was, like, when we started to get a few negative reviews, because, like, early on we would get sort of, like, just good reviews only, and, like, I wasn't sure if that was just because, like, only people who liked our song or like liked our stuff were reviewing our albums, and they were like, all being, pretty cool about it.
Yeah.
And then we got a few negative ones, and I was like, oh, finally, like we got some negative reviews. Like there's at least enough people are listening to our shit there's some that don't like it now. Like that's good.
I love the fact now you're actually the first musician I've ever talked to that actually says, come on, man, bring it on. Like I want to know you're not blowing smoke up my butt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like, yeah, I think the bigger our reach has gotten, I think the more chance there is of us getting a worse review, which is almost like a sign that, we're actually like growing as a band. So
yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah. You said you haven't released an album since 2018. And I'm wondering, there's something I've noticed a lot lately. I see this a lot on Instagram, right? Promo companies, so PR management, whomever, they're dropping the latest single, right? They're saying, here's Stryker with their latest single. And then 3 months from now, you're going to drop another single. And there's a lot of push behind that exclusively. Very, very little press towards an album release unless it's been a year of singles, right? And you finally have a compilation to release. It seems to be the new way. It's, the approach. And I'm wondering if, I don't know if you're managed or self-managed, but I'm wondering if you as a collective have figured out that the best route for us is to just drop a couple singles and then go out on tour, or is it to write a whole album and, give it a general theme and put it out that way? So what's your take?
Yeah, it's an interesting time because I think like a lot of like music industry people are saying like, especially for like algorithms and stuff like that, that get your music out. And if that, ultimately that's kind of the goal of promoting your music and stuff, is getting it out there to the most people. So they're all saying like, singles are the way to go. But I mean, we really like recording albums. So we're kind of in between. We're not exactly sure. And I mean, that's probably, that probably hasn't helped us as far as like how long it's taken us to do stuff. Like we have a couple more singles, because at the start of, I guess it was the start of 2021, we recorded 3 songs. And Deathwish was one of them. So we have 2 more that are recorded and ready to go, and we just haven't figured out when we want to release them.
Gotcha.
But so those are like their own thing. And then now we've got new material we've been working on and stuff. So and then we'll at some point we'll have to sort of nail down what exactly we want to do for releasing them. But because I've always liked getting an album and like being able to listen to everything. But I also totally understand that people are, especially a lot of younger people, are just listening to 1-2 songs. Some people are just doing EPs here and there, which I mean, that's almost cool too. Because if you could release like 2 EPs in a year, that equals 1 album, but there was enough time in between for you to like sort of work on the music a little longer, might be cool. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, we live in a bite-sized world now, right? There's so much content. If you don't, like this video, for example, I love it that we're talking, and I would love to talk to you all day just because you're a great guy. But I also know that if I release a video that's longer than, say, I don't know, it's actually like 10 minutes, but that's not happening. Okay. But if I release an hour-long video, YouTube just doesn't like it for algorithm, unless I get, I'm fortunate to get 10,000 downloads as an example. And then, they'll move it up a tier and then start talking about it. But it takes a lot. But I think, in your case, stick to your guns, do what you want to do. We both agree unless you're selling lots of tickets and selling lots of merch, there's no money in this business. You're doing it for love. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So you might as well do what you want, and hopefully the chips will fall,
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like everything's always changing, and everybody's got an opinion on what you should do, and then it's like whatever. And we've always just kind of done whatever we wanted anyway, so regardless. So, and if that's putting out more singles, then we'll probably do that. And if it's putting out an album, do that next. I don't know.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, so let's talk about the tour, man. You're going to be heading out with Beast in Black and Seven Kingdoms shortly. You guys are going to tour North America, or I don't know how much Canada you're doing, but I know you're doing a lot of American dates, barring any COVID shutdowns. So, right. So clearly it's an exciting time, and thank God you guys get to get out and shake the cobwebs off. What do you love most about touring? And what drives you bonkers within minutes of leaving home?
I don't know. Touring is a lot of fun. I think the worst thing is just like logistical stuff. Like, we've had our van break down twice on tour.
Yeah.
That van is sitting somewhere in, where is it? I can't remember. Somewhere in the Eastern United States. It's in some like lot somewhere, because we were just like, this thing's toast, we can't even fix it, so we just like went home without it.
Just abandon it, push it off a bridge.
Well, we got it like towed to a place, and then they were like, oh, we could probably we could take a look at it and see if we can fix it, and we were just like, fuck, whatever, we're just gonna leave. Like,
nice.
It's not even worth it anymore. Like the price at the time was like, I don't know, a gasket head exploded or something.
Oh God, and that's expensive fix. Yeah. How do you handle? I'm not trying to weave myself in, but I can't handle the no shower, no toilet thing. Like, I'm stopping every 5 seconds on the freeway, or right, like, or after a show, especially like in the old days when you could go into clubs and everybody's smoking, right? So you would smell like everybody you just talked to, for a day if you didn't do anything about it. How do you handle that logistic stuff? Because that's the nightmare stuff for me, man.
Well, like, it depends on the tour, right? So like, for example, the one we're about to go on with Beast in Black is we'll be driving ourselves. Gotcha. And getting hotel rooms. So like, we're at the point where we're not just like bumming around sleeping on people's floors and stuff. So it's like, we can get a shower every night and all that stuff, which is kind of nice. So that bumps it up a little bit in the hygiene world. But on tour, like, we've done tours in Europe on a tour bus, and you have to, like, you're at the mercy of the venue's showers, which isn't always ideal. Like, sometimes you look at the shower, you're like, I just won't even bother today.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I've stood in some very deep, gross water just to get the majority of the goo off of my body. So I know what you mean, man. No, thank you. Yeah, you're going to be doing okay with the hotels. So basically you are celebrities now, is what you're telling me. You're rich celebrities.
No, we just, all the money that comes back to the band's going straight to the Best Western or whatever. So yeah. No, I get you. Working for ham and cheese sandwiches, I know how it works.
So you'll be, excuse me for coughing, everybody. I'm coming down from COVID, so I should explain that to you. You'll be here in Seattle, April 19th. So I'm going to come down because I got to see you guys play. I'm looking forward to seeing that very much. Do you have any dream cities or tours you'd love to get attached to? Someplace you've never been, or a band you would kill to play with?
We've always like wanted to go to Japan, and we've had like little like beginnings of things that have just sort of fizzled out because it's hard to get over there. Like, with Japan, they're like, it's really all or nothing. Like, they won't bring you over for like a shitty tour. Yeah. Where it's like, we can go into the States and play like the worst venues and they don't care. They'll pay you $100 or they'll pay you nothing, right? Like they don't care. But in Japan, they're like, they won't like disrespect you. You know what I mean? Like, they won't have, if they can't have you come over and give you all the accommodations and everything, then they just won't. Which, I mean, for like sort of a more niche band like us, where, it takes a lot. Like, I think if we went over with maybe another band, that might work out, but logistically that's crazy too. So it's like, yeah.
But that's the country to go to, man. my wife is Japanese, and I go to Japan quite often. And the thing that I've always seen is that metal, progressive metal, anything difficult music, so to speak, right? But really, honestly, focused on metal more than any other genre. The Japanese just go crazy for it. I mean, they still have Tower Records there, for God's sake.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know,
actually,
go ahead.
Our bass player Pete, he lived in Japan for 8 years.
Oh wow!
So he's got endless stories about it. So that it sounds like a great place, and lots of really good bands from Japan too, especially in our style. Like Anthem was a band. I don't know if you've heard them.
Yes, I have.
Great band. Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. Steve Vai gets. I mean, actually, a friend of mine just the other day was at the tower in Tokyo, and she was showing me the big display right in the middle of the room, a big Steve Vai pyramid, and I'm of CDs. You know what I mean? And it's like, what is it, 1997? There, it's just insane. So yeah, I mean, you guys should figure that out. I mean, I don't have really any pull over there, but I would love to try to help you. Just so you know, keep it on the back burner. I would love to see what I can do to connect you to some talent over there, and some maybe like a tour manager, right?
Yeah,
So.
I think we just gotta find the right person to take a risk on the band, and we've always wanted to go to Australia. We have quite a few fans in Australia, but that's one that's like, you gotta like be in it for the big trip, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to Japan, you're already going to drop $5,000 plus just in airfare per person. You might as well go do the whole freaking thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just kill all the Pacific Rim countries, man. Drop into there, maybe play a show in Thailand, maybe stop in Okinawa. You know what I mean? Just really, really take advantage of it. Okay, so I have one final question for you. I think you've already pretty much shared the answer, but I want to ask it anyway, which is, what would it take for you to believe, you've had a successful career when you could look back and say, man, Stryker was worthy of being remembered. I'm worthy of being remembered.
What would it take?
Yeah, what would it take for you to believe that
know.
you've had that happen? I mean, has it already occurred to you? Do you believe, you know what I mean, you've achieved?
I think for the band, our big goal has always been in the last little while to be, playing at the like main stage on some festivals, and like try, that would be like a good validation. I think, if you can go play at like say Wacken or something like that and play on the main stage, that would be pretty cool. We've had some, awesome bands from Canada, like 3 Inches of Blood did that like way back, and we were like, holy shit, that's awesome. Like at the time we were like, these guys are the biggest band out of Canada. And for a while they were. It was like, so it was pretty cool. Yeah. And that's something that we've always thought, like, man, we would like to get to there. And we have played main stage at festivals, but it hasn't been like the big ones,
Right. It's not Wacken, it's not Hellfest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but wasn't John Asher, wasn't he sending something around saying, hey, you want to play Wacken this year? Apply. Do you know what I'm talking about? There was
they do like a battle of the bands type thing for Wacken. Yeah. We've never actually done that, but I mean, it's pretty cool. I think we're hoping that we'll play there eventually. We've got a good booking agent working with us now, so who knows?
Yeah, that's great. Well, you guys could definitely make it. Not that you necessarily need to lower yourself to a battle of the bands thing, but but I mean, you guys are worthy of it. You know what I mean? You're a killer band. You're a forged in steel unit, and like I said, you've got a classic sound. So, man, Dan, I want nothing but the best for you, man. I know I blasted through this conversation today, but I deeply enjoy what the band does. You guys give me, big smiles. And, let me ask you this last thing. When do we get to hear the next thing? When's the next single come out? That's what I'd like to know.
We're planning that right now. We're trying to figure it out, and I think it'll be within like a month or two.
Okay.
There'll be some new music. And then, yeah, so definitely before we go on tour.